attention to that particular section. South Carolina is ranked 39th, the bottom third in animal protection laws. 23 states and thousands of US cities and counties have some law in place regulating or banning tethering or chaining up your dog. So who cares about animal welfare? 68% of Americans own a pet, and polls continue to show that the public cares deeply about animal welfare and protection. These voting, tax-paying, property-owning residents care about what, as a state, we deem is acceptable animal treatment. Does this bill ask for too much? Question, have you read the entire bill? It's 8 pages of legalese. We tend, especially when we're talking about subjects like these, to have a very knee-jerk reaction about certain topics. We hear what we want to hear, and then we make assumptions about the rest. We filter. I do it myself. I did it with this bill at first. Did you read the entire bill, or did someone give you a general idea of what was in it, and then you assumed what the rest was? Let's look at the bill. I know that we talked about it, so I'm just going to hit the high points because, again, I know the majority of us are here to pay attention to that particular section. You may have heard that this bill bans tethering. It does not. It defines what cruel tethering is, and I know that all of us here are here because we care about animals. So while I read this, I need a little bit of audience participation, and please raise your hand if you agree that this section is cruel. Causes injury or illness to the dog. Please raise your hand if you think that this is cruel. Utilizes a tether that exceeds 1/8 of the dog's weight. Please raise your hand if you disagree. Raise your hand if you agree that that is cruel. Utilizes a tether too short for them to move around. Doesn't permit the dog access to food, water, shade, or shelter. Do you think your dog deserves food, water, and shelter? Uses a choke or prong collar while tethered. There's no time limit on tethering with this bill, as long as basic conditions are met. If your dog is tethered for more than an hour, he needs access to shelter and 50 feet of space. There isn't a 1-hour limit. If you have to tether your dog while you're at work, if those basic conditions are met, you are not in violation of this bill. And for those that are concerned this bill would affect hunting, you may tether a dog while engaged in lawful hunting. We're not here to tell people not to hunt. We don't feel that this bill has anything to do with hunting. Does this really seem like we're asking for too much? Are you for keeping a dog on multiple chains that wrap around his legs so he can't reach food or water? Or move more than a foot in either direction? Because that happens. We have a video from 2 weeks ago in Simpsonville, and I promise you that it is difficult to watch just 1 minute of that dog's life on a chain. And I have photographs of all of these. I know you can't see it, but we also have this video, and it took me 5 days to open it and to watch it. Do you support chaining a dog their entire life with a choke collar, restricting her ability to breathe? We have a dog that came to one of our council meetings recently named Max, and he had 2 chains embedded in his neck, and this was right here in Pickens County. A beautiful German Shepherd dog, and this was his neck after he had 2 chains embedded in his neck. And then there's Gus. When rescuers found Gus, his collar had embedded into his neck and his open flesh had maggots in it. He died, and he shouldn't have. This is my last one. The image on your right, he was adopted from a local animal shelter, and then he was kept on a tether for 9 months, and he was rescued, and then he passed away shortly thereafter. We desperately need these laws to hold people accountable, to limit agony and suffering, or just to educate those that simply don't have the capacity or the compassion to understand what they are doing is wrong. You may assume we don't even need this bill. It seems like common sense, doesn't it? But for those who volunteer in rescue or animal shelters, we see it every single day. Your average person doesn't. And I promise you, it's horrific, and we need your help. Owning a dog is a responsibility, but it's also a choice. If you elect to accept that responsibility, You also need to treat them humanely, and if you don't want to be a humane pet owner, then you don't need a dog. This is your pet, a living thing, and not your prisoner. There's no reason for another dog in South Carolina to suffer like Max, or Gus, or Heidi, or Journey. Thank you for your time.